So there's a take I've seen a lot recently on the internet that I disagree with. So I've come here today to be a contrarian for you all and to say my stance on this, right? That is opposite of everybody else's, because I'm a contrarian today for some reason. So a lot of people are saying that they think we're entering a new era of gatekeepers coming back, of institutions being more powerful, and of tastemakers really coming back into the fold, right? What does this mean? I think we should do a brief breakdown of their take first to really make sure that we can be contrarians together here today adequately, right? So basically they're saying around like 2010-ish is when the internet kicks into full gear, right? Let's say 2012, that feels a little bit more accurate. Mid 2010s, the internet kicks into full gear, and things grow further decentralized. Whether that be what art we consider to be good, something we talk about actually quite frequently here on this channel. The fact that we're no longer in a monoculture, that we're in this culture where everything is also huge, and there's a billion YouTubers that have over 100 million subscribers, and I don't know who any of them are, which is weird because you'd think 100 million people watching something is more than enough for it to be the biggest thing in the world. That is what they're talking about. Our culture has grown splintered. There is no semblance of what good taste means anymore, and everything is based on how much attention, how many eyes you can get on whatever you're doing, right? They say that we've grown too decentralized, right? I'm going to chalk in, I don't think I've ever seen anybody come with exact dates for this, so I'm not going to say that there is one, but let's say we hit around the mid 2020s is where we're at right now. They say that we're hitting here where we're too decentralized and people are craving things to be in some sort of orderly way again, where they can open a magazine and hear from somebody, this is a good thing and you should go invest your time into it, and have a way of dictating their consumption based off of not an algorithm, but rather a tastemaker, a critic, a gatekeeper, or an institution that can uphold some level of taste, right? This would look something akin to us not only putting more value in things like museums and things, any institution you name, but also creating new institutions around like what content is considered to be good content. You know that streaming service Nebula, where all the video essayists go? Like maybe something like that, where it's considered like this is a Nebula creator, this is somebody above the average creator, right? That is what they're pitching is going to happen. I disagree with this. I completely disagree with this. First of all, I want to say though, I empathize with this. I actually wish I agreed with this. I think that this is a great idea because I love the idea of culture being a one culture again. I hear the times of my parents where, everybody knew the same shows and the same movies, and you could go to work the next day and you could go, hey, did you watch the episode of Friends last night? And the guy next to you is like, I love that Joey, and then you're friends now. Like I think that it's the coolest thing, and I think that's a feeling that a lot of us share, right? We hear about these cultural events, we hear about these cultural milestones, and I think we kind of crave them because we don't have them anymore. And most of our culture, most of what we consume now is on the internet. It's content, whether that be TikToks or YouTube videos like you're watching right now. And we're like, we wish it could be like that. Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber on earth. None of my friends have ever watched a Mr. Beast video. That doesn't even work. I know a couple of YouTubers they watch, but it's not like we have any sort of semblance of discussion we could have, let alone with people outside of our friend group. So I do look at this yearning for a culture that appreciates quality and is like, we are going to invest our time correctly, and wish that would come back. I actually will even go as far as saying I think what I do here on Paint&Talk is me almost expressing this feeling. I wish that there was slow, thought-provoking content that I could listen to and not exactly have to think too hard, but not exactly have to be sedated into watching like an AI voiceover happen of a Reddit story while somebody does 5-minute crafts, right? And that's what I try and do here because that's what I wish existed. So that's why I've done this, right? So I agree with the sentiment here. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think it makes much sense, right? So this theory is spawned out of trends, right? The world has trended to be more decentralized in the way that we consume information, the way that we consume art, and we believe that due to people not liking the centralization, it's going to grow more centralized, right? That people are going to put more stake into institutions, gatekeepers, XYZ, right? We'll refer to it as XYZ for the rest of this video because institutions, gatekeepers, and tastemakers doesn't quite roll off the tongue the way I wish it would, right? So they wish there was more of this XYZ. So everybody's just gonna like do it? Like that's where I fail to see this theory, right? I think that the idea that culture shifts when everybody just wants to do something is never how it's ever worked. Like, the museum wasn't founded as an institution because everybody was like, man, we really wish we could go look at these paintings in a very nice house somewhere. That's not how that happened, right? It comes through mass shifts, right? These mass shifts are never driven by people. They're rather driven by institutions, right? It's impossible, from what I understand, for a group of people to bootstrap their way into a cultural shift that leads to the way that everybody consumes art changing. That's a very, very distinct thing I want to say here, that the way that the world consumes art, I do not think can be changed from this way of everybody making their tastes different and yearning for this time of having more of X, Y, Z, right? Of institutions, tastemakers, and whatever the third one is, right? Gatekeepers. However, as much as I don't think that we can bootstrap our way into changing the way that the entirety of culture as a whole functions, I do think that we can 100% have a movement here. This is how movements start, right? You have a bunch of guys in the 1920s being like, what even is modern life? You get Dadaism, right? That's how things happen. Historically, movements have been a little bit more local, but what if we're not going to see here is not a new era of tastemakers and gatekeepers, institutions, the Z, but rather a movement where we see a group of people move towards this idea of having things that are more refined, more cultivated, quieter, a little bit less sedating. Maybe they even start going to these institutions more and looking to them for how they should consume. I think that's very likely. I think it's more likely than the other one because I don't think it's time for the other one yet. I do agree with the sentiment that someday we will see some sort of centralization happen, right? But I think this idea, this theory, moves off a very faulty premise. It moves off a premise that the reason that we've moved away from these institutions is not because they're outdated, but because everybody's just distracted from them. They're too focused looking at those damn phones, and they're not seeing the beautiful paintings in these institutions and the gatekeepers and the tastemakers anymore. That's not really how this happened, right? It's not like that's not really how culture moves. It doesn't move with a bunch of people just doing a thing, like we said. It's not like in 2012, everyone was like, wow, funny Nyan Cat, and they've been on TikTok for 10 years, and then 2025, they're gonna be like, man, I really should start looking at these paintings in this museum again. That makes no sense. What's really happened is that as the internet sped up and given everybody further access to information, as well as being wildly more entertaining, it's not these institutions have lost favor, it's that they've fallen behind, right? They're outdated, simply. These are outdated ways of doing things. Everything from university to museums, to you name it, foundations, these are all growing more and more outdated by the day. They say that 2024 was the first ever podcast election. A hilarious thing to say. Funniest thing ever, that they go on the news and actually say that as if that's supposed to be like political commentary. Like, no, 2024 is not the first podcast election. Nobody's gonna look back in history and be like, man, these podcasts are the whole reason this happened. Like, that's stupid. But the fact of the matter is that everybody's starting to notice more and more that culture exists on the internet now, right? The internet's where these things are happening, and it's only, I would argue, that we're just at the beginning of it. I don't even think it's going to get, I don't even think we've maxed out the way that this is going to happen yet. I think it's going to get much bigger, and to be frank, to us people out here who want stuff like these institutions to come back, I think it's going to be much worse, if anything. I think it's going to be terribly worse for people like us who want something like that, right? But I do agree with the idea that someday culture will come back together. Maybe I agree with this idea just because I really want to agree with it, just because I do like the idea of us someday again having a centralized way to look at the world through XYZ. Maybe that could 100% be what's happening here. I'm not even going to deny that for a second, right? I've made a plethora of takes in the past that are just false, and I made because they make me feel better rather than addressing things. However, I do find it hard to, there's money in institutions. There's money in preserving history, and there's people who are vastly interested in it. So it only makes sense to me that as we move farther away, there will be institutions that bring this culture together, and we will look at the times we live in, once again, maybe not as a monoculture, but as a semblance of a culture that has institutions, gatekeepers, and tastemakers. I disagree, though, that this will happen through some mass shift. Rather, I think it would have to happen through a wave of new institutions coming, right? Once again, because as we said, the reason that these institutions are failing, the reason that they're fading out of public favor, is not because of the fact that everybody just stopped going, it's because they've grown outdated. How do you make a new institution that is fully indated? Is that the term? It's fully current, fully modern and relevant, right? How do you do that? I don't really think that we're going to see a way where everybody just brainstorms their way into coming up with the next version of things that is completely works. I don't think that's going to happen because, I don't know, the Met is going to do that. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think the Met's always going to be here, by the way. I don't think these museums are going anywhere. I think that what's going to happen is we're going to have to see a new crop of a modern form of institution come up. Modern infrastructures and things like that. People are losing faith in our institutions, and I don't think that faith is going to be solved by everybody just going, you know what, let's just drop this whole no faith in our institutions act. Let's just go bullish and let's go do it. I think it's going to grow through people making new institutions, right? There's no way everything can exist in this space of everything being random and everywhere forever, right? I'm going to eat those words in 5 years probably, because there's totally a space where that can happen. But there's a part of me that still thinks this era will come back because, again, maybe just because I wanted to, but I find it hard to believe that we'll never see a centralized version of stuff again. I just think it's going to have to come through a wave of new things. I don't think it's going to be the old things refurbishing themselves, because that's just what makes sense to me. So that's my take. I feel like I said nothing today. I don't know. I've been getting that weird feeling lately where I finish one of these, and then even if I think it's going well, do it, I just finish it and I'm like, you're an idiot and that was terrible and you should never hit record on a camera again. But we're done and it's getting uploaded now. This is the painting. Loving this palette, guys. 3 more with this. You know we're going to do it. You know we have to do it. Mainly because I have so much of this gray paint. I have more of this gray paint than anything else in this palette. There is a lob of it, literally the size of my fist in this palette, and I used up all my white that I had left to make it, so I gotta order new white. It's getting dire out here, guys. The Color Palette series has drained me of everything I have, so you gotta go follow the Instagram and be on the lookout for the post when it comes out soon. That was a great segue, that was amazing. So go follow over there and be on the lookout for that. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint&Talk episode 224. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.